Hello, and welcome to Integrating AT and HLPs in Pre-Service Special Educator Preparation Programs. I'm Dr. Belinda Rudinger, and I'm looking forward to talking with you on this topic today. So a little bit about me. I'm an assistant professor of special education at East Texas A&M University, and I have about 20 years of experience in the field. I've worked with all different ages, and I've worked in a lot of different instructional settings in school districts. And so it's great to be able to work with pre-service teachers now at a university setting and to be able to pass all of that on to them. I also have a special interest area in assistive technology. So I'm a certified assistive technology professional, which I'm an ATP through RESNA, and I'm also a certified assistive technology instructional specialist through the Academy for Certification of Vision Rehabilitation and Educational Professionals, or ACVREP. So that's a vision specific certification. And I'm certified to work with all level special education here in Texas, as well as students with visual impairments, students English language and reading, EC through 4, generalist, and then 4 through 8, English language, English reading arts. So at any rate, I've worked with a lot of different students over the years, and then it's really gratifying now to be able to see my students go out there and work with students. So today we're here to talk about assistive technology, and I feel like this quote always kind of brings home the impact of assistive technology to me, even though it's a quote from a very long time ago. So Mary Pat Radabod, IBM, once said, "For most people, technology makes things easier. For people with disabilities, however, technology makes things possible." And I think that's really huge for us to keep in mind because there's such a proliferation of how we all use assistive technology these days, whether it's in our instructional settings, for good instructional design, whether it's personal ways that we use our own devices to stay in touch with our family and our friends. Technology is everywhere, but it's important to remember that there are specific definitions as far as assistive technology goes and certain things that it makes possible that might not otherwise be possible. So a few, just kind of a little background to the research and what has influenced my work in this field and some of what I will be talking about today. So our legal definition of assistive technology, which comes from, our special education law, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, indicates that AT is not only a device, that we purchase and use, but it's also a service. And I think that's something that it's really easy for us to forget, or something that maybe not everybody ever knew. And so I think it's really important to be aware that that legal definition means not only the devices that we procure and use for students, but the services that maintain them, whether that's repair, maintenance, whether it's the evaluation side of things, whether it is providing information to families on how to use it, whether it's training general educators or people in different settings. And, the people providing that service, it can look different depending on what it was. I know for me, I worked in a self-contained setting for my first teaching position, and I was so lucky to work with people who knew a lot more about AT back then than I did, like occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech language pathologists. And so a lot of times they were in the driver's seat as far as making recommendations and procuring devices, but I was the one carrying out, those goals and objectives using the devices. And so I needed to get training too. So I think it's important to recognize just how large that definition really is. Um, and that's, one of the key things we're here to talk about today. But one thing that comes up over and over again in the research is that the teacher's perspective on AT and their sense of preparation and also their sense of self-efficacy makes a huge impact on students. I used to work as an AT consultant for a regional area, so I would go out to all different school districts and I would see time and time again that for some people, you could tell teachers they may not know everything about the assistive technology, but they were very comfortable jumping in, trying things, using those devices, supporting them with students. And those were the people whose classrooms you could see devices getting being used. Then there were other people you could tell were less comfortable and devices might sit on shelves. They'd get it out when I would come out for my consultation. But it's something where it's really important for us to make sure that teachers and then our, pre-service students preparing to be teachers are comfortable with AT. And comfortable can't mean they know everything because I don't know everything. There's always going to be more to learn with technology. And that's part of what's so exciting about the time period we're in right now is our students have access to so much more than we even had 10 or 15 years ago when I was in the classroom. And so it's something to celebrate, but we can't have our self-efficacy based on knowing everything. We have to find other ways to kind of build that up. Um, and so it's really important to find those ways to get teachers to have experience, to have a little training. And also research shows that assistive technology has not typically it's been underrepresented in our special education coursework. I know I've worked some places where there's like a standalone assistive technology course, but I'll talk about this in just a little bit. But here at East Texas A&M University, we have assistive technology infused, integrated, woven into all of our undergraduate special education courses because we think it's that important and because we think that, spiraling of coming back to it over and over again and providing that instruction is just so important. It's more than we want in just a standalone class, although a standalone class, there's a lot of opportunities there too. So, it's going to look different at every setting, but it's really important to recognize the importance of getting our pre-service teachers experience with AT and also, some actual good training in their coursework. And then some of the ways that we've been able to do that I'm going to share, just kind of some pragmatic examples. Simple exploration with different training experiences, whether those are virtual or in person, can really promote teacher knowledge of AT. Before and after trainings, even if it's a real short training, I always hear students say, wow, I had no idea any of this was out there. And so part of that is giving them that access, whether it's showing videos if you're doing it in a virtual model, whether it's setting up, we've done like virtual scavenger hunts where there's specific software or specific devices with specific functions that we want our students to research and come back to with different information and write different things up. And so there's a lot of ways that you can do that, and I'll talk about that as well. But it's really important to provide those training experiences and find those ways to integrate assistive technology and everything. It's also really important to have a growth mindset in my take on things because and it's backed up, in research as well. But so many people are afraid of assistive technology. They're afraid of not knowing everything. They're afraid of not doing it right the first time. And I just want to encourage teachers and pre-service teachers to jump in, explore devices, find those materials, collaborate with other people. You don't have to figure it out on your own. But I think that piece is hugely important, and it ties back to self-efficacy. And then finally, we know that the high leverage practices that have been identified, including, HLP 19, which is very specific to assistive technology, we know that those are effective for all students. So the work, by McCleskey et al. That's been done to develop out those high leverage practices and identify them so we can all use them. And then the recent restructuring, it's not just students with disabilities who benefit from HLPs, it's all students. So it's a good teaching, period. So speaking of the HLPs, this is just a quick kind of background of the redesign. So you can see here, it almost looks like a house to me. That's how I conceptualize it. So it's across 4 different areas of collaboration, data, instruction, and then intensive intervention when needed. And then we've got 6 pillars that form kind of the structure holding everything up. So HLP 1, 3, 6, 7, 16, and 20 of the original HLPs, and I'll get into more detail in a moment. But also we've got these embedded HLPs that are part of this foundation and are so incredibly important, especially this blue section under instruction of what to teach and how to teach. So keep this visual in mind as I continue to talk about how we integrate the HLPs with AT at East Texas. So some connections you can see right off. HLP 1 and 2, they're both about collaboration for student success. One is with professionals, one is with families. HLP 6 is all about data, and that really comes in when we are planning trials to see if assistive technology, if it's the right fit or not, when we are looking at what's working and what's not working and doing evaluations and assessments to match up the right assistive technology. And that assessment is also always a collaborative process, right? Also, other professionals, and families may also be involved in supporting those devices. And so that part's really important as well with HLP 1 and 2, those pillars. HLPs 16 and 20 are both about instruction. And so explicit instruction means, goals and objectives set aside in the IEP for delivering specific instruction about how to use an AT device, not just expecting a student to pick it up incidentally in their environment. And so that goes, right along with their IEP. However, that intensive instruction can also come in place if you have someone who perhaps suffered a traumatic brain injury or a sudden vision loss, where they're needing very intensive instruction on new devices, possibly even in a more restrictive setting like a residential or day school placement. That's where that HLP may come in as well. So you can see there's a lot of connections here between what we do with assistive technology and these HLP pillars. There's also a lot of connections between the embedded HLPs. So part of that comes into how we use data to drive our instruction and our assessment, and as we, circle back and forth between those two. So it's about how we consider assistive technology every year at the annual IEP meeting, how we collaborate to see what assistive technology might be helpful as we consider it, whether or not there's a formal evaluation that year or not. It's how we identify the short and long-term goals. Sometimes, for example, you might know a student is going to need to be proficient in keyboarding. That's going to take a long time. You can't wait until 6 months before they need that proficiency. And so sometimes, even if someone seems young to start learning something about assistive technology, it's important for us to look forward and see how that may be. Um, and then after we prioritize those goals, design that instruction. So in these other embedded HLPs, providing scaffolded supports, there's different features of our assistive technology, like highlighting, speech to text, text to speech, different things like that that can help. Obviously, HLP is clearly aligned. And then also, it's really important that we don't just use AT in one setting. It's important that we recognize how important it is that students are able to access that same technology at home, and not just in like a pull-out or specialized instructional setting, but also in the general education setting, just in all these different environments, and also just socially and recreationally. It's important, especially if someone's technology is, augmentative communication device, you want them to have their voice with them all the time in all settings. And so that's where that HLP 21 is real important. So some ways that we do this at East Texas A&M, we've got 7 special education courses, and all of them have AT infused or woven into them. For our survey of exceptionalities, where we talk about all of the different eligibilities under IDEA, we talk about examples of AT use, we watch videos, we provide hands-on examples for the class that's in person, and then we provide like more video examples and like virtual scavenger hunt kind of activities for the people taking it online. So we give people practice with like Bookshare, with digital audio media, with creating tactile graphics, with using Picto4Me, which is just a free option for creating communication boards. Our current topics class has an entire case study with assistive technology where you're reviewing where they're at, making recommendations, watching a video, and then completing a report. In our low incidence disability, we teach students to use a slate and stylus to produce Braille, and they have to create 5 artifacts. They also learn how to adapt battery operated devices for switch use. So those are both low cost options that can be done. In our instructional methods, we've got a crosswork where we're putting together all our special education acronyms, HLPs, AT, evidence-based practices, and universal design for learning. For our transition and collaboration class, we have them create a spreadsheet that has AT inventory so that they can realize what devices are provided by the school and what's going to be needed in their next setting, whether that's the work world or whether that is university life. Then we work a lot on different types of data collection, which you end up needing for trials in our positive behavior and support class. And we look at AT accommodations for testing in our assessment class. We're also lucky enough to have a lab at our campus library. For assistive technology. And so this is arranged by different functions that assistive technology can support, different areas, whether it's communication, sensory impairments, play and recreation, etc. We've done research projects here. Every semester we train general education student teachers in the lab. We provide training for our pre-service teachers and our special ed courses. We've also provided training for kinesiology students, like adaptive PE, things like that. We provide professional development for local school districts. And then because not everyone's going to be able to come to campus to use the lab, we also have a lot of virtual lab-based activities and kind of a mobile lab where we're able to pack up some of our equipment and take it somewhere local to be able to provide training. So obviously not everybody has a lab like that, but here's what you can do if you even just have one device. If you've got one iPad, open up that settings menu and start teaching about all of the accessibility options that are available in Apple and talk about what features are also transferred to other devices. And that gets you into a ton of great conversations and training. Same for if you've got one PC, if you've got one Chromebook, dig into those Windows accessibility options or Google and Android accessibility options. If you've got one switch that you purchased from AbleNet, one battery interrupter, which is like less than $10, and one little battery operated device that you bought from, a local store, then you can demonstrate the use of battery interrupters and how that can be used for our students to teach cause and effect and, give access when you have fine motor difficulties. If you just have access to something online, you can get out there and look at online catalogs like Enabling Devices and AbleNet just to see an idea of what's out there. So it's really important to start where you're at and realize how many great resources we have out there to teach and learn about assistive technology. Again, remembering we're not going to know it all. So in conclusion, I just want to share, every setting is different. Your setting is going to be different than the one that I work within, but that's a good thing. That gives you the opportunity to think creatively and look for those ways to leverage the resources that you have, just like I mentioned on that previous slide. Collaboration is so important. Don't spend too much time trying to do all of this on your own. Reach out to other people, figure out devices together, call technical support, find people online who are using the same device and trying to figure it out. We're all so much stronger together. Also, don't work on AT in isolation, not just from a collaboration aspect, but because you want to infuse assistive technology into your existing settings and routines for your students. And that's also part of how you evaluate and make sure that it makes sense, is thinking about all of that. And finally, I just really encourage you to enjoy assistive technology, enjoy the fact that you don't know it all, enjoy the fact that there's always going to be something new to learn, because that means our students have more possibilities than ever, and that's a really good thing. So get your growth mindset going and be ready to learn alongside your students, their families, and your colleagues. Thank you so much for spending time with me today during this webinar, and go out there and enjoy your AT. It's there for you and your students to make life better. Thank you.